You are 3 months from losing everything. The savings account is thin. The team stopped believing weeks ago, even if nobody said it out loud. And somewhere between the 5th rejection email and the silence from investors who used to answer your calls, a single thought creeps in. Maybe you were never built for this. Stop right there. Because what you're feeling right now, a Roman slave felt 2,000 years before you were born. His name was Epictetus. He owned nothing. Not his body, not his time, not even the right to speak freely. And yet he built a mind so unshakable that emperors studied his words centuries after his death. He never ran a company. He never lost a funding round. But he understood something about failure that most founders spend their entire careers avoiding. Failure doesn't break you. Your interpretation of failure does. And in the next few minutes, you're going to learn 11 brutal, unfiltered Stoic failure lessons for entrepreneurs, straight from Epictetus, that will change how you see every setback you've ever had, and every one still coming. This isn't a motivational pep talk. This is a weapon. Use it. Here's the part nobody tells you when you start a business. Failure isn't the exception in entrepreneurship. It's the baseline. It's the water you swim in. Every founder you admire, the ones with the exits, the ones with their faces on magazine covers, they failed more times than you've even attempted. The difference between them and the people who quietly disappeared isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's what they did with the failure once it landed on their desk. Epictetus opens his teachings with a line that sounds simple until it isn't. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Read that again. Your product launch flopping, that's not fully up to you. The market shifting overnight, not up to you. An investor ghosting you after 3 good meetings, not up to you. But how you respond to all of it, every single time, that's entirely yours. Nobody can take that from you. Not a bad quarter. Not a co-founder who walked away. Not a bank account sitting at 0. Most entrepreneurs get this backwards. They pour their identity into the outcome. The launch becomes who they are. The funding round becomes their worth. And when it collapses, they collapse with it. Epictetus would call that a category error. You confused what belongs to you with what never did. Lesson number 1. The failure of the outcome is not the failure of you. Separate the two, and you become something almost impossible to destroy. Let's make this real. Picture the founder who spent 18 months building a product nobody wanted. The demos went well. The team was proud. Launch day came, and the silence was deafening. No sign-ups, no traction. Just the sound of a Slack channel nobody was posting in anymore. That founder had 2 paths in front of him. Path 1, decide he was a fraud, that he'd wasted 1.5 years of his life, and quietly shut it down in shame. Path 2, treat the failure as information, not identity, data, not a verdict. He chose the second path, and 18 months later that same failed product became the foundation for something that actually worked, because he kept the only thing that mattered. His judgment stayed clean. His mind stayed his own. That's lesson number 2. Epictetus taught that it isn't events that disturb people, it's their judgments about events. Your competitor didn't destroy your quarter. Your interpretation that this means it's over, that did. The market downturn didn't end your company. The story you told yourself in the 3 sleepless nights after did. This sounds almost too simple to be useful. Until you sit with how much of your suffering as a founder has come not from what happened, but from what you told yourself it meant. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Epictetus wasn't interested in comfortable philosophy. He was interested in the truth, even when it stings. Lesson number 3. Most founders are addicted to control they were never promised. You cannot control whether the investor says yes. You cannot control whether the algorithm favors your ad. You cannot control whether your competitor undercuts your price the week before your biggest launch. The moment you accept this, really accept it, something shifts. The anxiety that used to eat your mornings starts to lose its grip, because you stop fighting battles that were never yours to win. What you can control is smaller than you think, and more powerful than you've ever used. Your effort, your discipline, your response in the 90 seconds after bad news lands in your inbox. That's the entire battlefield. Everything else is noise dressed up as importance. Think about the founders who folded under pressure you've read about. The ones whose companies became cautionary tales. In almost every case, it wasn't the failure itself that ended them. It was the story of the failure they couldn't stop repeating in their own heads long after the event was over. The setback happened once. The suffering happened 1,000 times, on replay, at 2 a.m., alone. You don't have to live that way. Epictetus survived slavery, exile, and poverty with a steadier mind than most people manage with a full bank account and a warm bed. If he could do that with less than nothing, you can survive a failed launch. You can survive a bad quarter. You can survive the silence after a pitch that should have landed. We've covered the foundation, 3 lessons in, and we haven't even reached the ones that will actually change how you operate under pressure. The next part gets sharper, more specific, and considerably more uncomfortable, in the best possible way. Let's go deeper, because surface-level Stoicism is where most people stop. And it's exactly why most people never actually change. Lesson number 4. Epictetus said that circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him. Sit with that for a second. That failed product launch didn't turn you into someone who panics under pressure. It revealed that you already were, and you just hadn't been tested yet. That's not an insult. It's the most useful information you'll ever get about yourself, and it's free. Every crisis in your business is an audit of your character, whether you asked for it or not. The investor who pulled out at the last minute didn't create your fear of scarcity. He exposed one that was already sitting there, waiting for the right amount of pressure to surface. Here's why that matters. If failure reveals character instead of creating it, then every setback becomes a mirror instead of a punishment. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what does this show me about how I operate when things get hard? That single shift in the question you ask yourself is worth more than any productivity hack you've ever downloaded. Lesson number 5, and this one is going to sting a little. Epictetus taught that we're not upset by what people do, we're upset by our judgment of what they do. Translate that into founder language. Your co-founder leaving didn't wreck the company. Your belief that the company can't survive without them did. Your biggest client walking away didn't sink your revenue projections on its own. Your conviction that you'll never replace that account did the sinking. This isn't about pretending losses don't hurt. They do. Epictetus never said don't feel it. He said don't let the feeling write the story before you've had a chance to think clearly. There's a founder story worth sitting with here. A guy who built a small logistics company from nothing. No name, no city. Because what matters is the pattern, not the person. 11 employees, 3 years of grinding, and then his single biggest client, the one that made up 60% of his revenue, cancelled the contract with 2 weeks' notice. 2 weeks. Most people in that position start planning the funeral for their business. He didn't. Not because he was fearless. He was terrified. But he'd trained himself, deliberately, to separate the event from the meaning he assigned to it. The event was, one client left. The meaning he chose was, now I have room to build something less fragile than a business that depends on one account. 18 months later, that company had 40 clients, and none of them made up more than 10% of revenue. The failure didn't just get survived. It became the architecture of something stronger. Lesson number 6. Stop treating failure like it needs an apology. Epictetus lived by a principle that most modern founders would find almost offensive in how blunt it is. Some things are simply not yours to control, and wasting energy resenting that fact is choosing to suffer twice. You already suffered once when the deal fell through. Why suffer a second time by replaying it for weeks, building a case against yourself in your own head, cross-examining every decision like you're on trial? The event happened once. Let it happen once. Lesson number 7 brings us to something Epictetus called the discipline of desire. In plain terms, stop wanting outcomes you don't control and start wanting only the effort that's actually yours. Founders torture themselves wanting the acquisition offer, wanting the term sheet, wanting the customer to say yes. None of that is yours to want, not directly. What's yours is the pitch you deliver, the product you build, the follow-up email you send at 11 p.m. because you refuse to leave anything on the table. Redirect your wanting toward what you actually own. And the anxiety that used to live in your chest during every big meeting starts to quiet down, because you stop gambling your peace of mind on things outside your hands. This is where these Stoic failure lessons for entrepreneurs stop being philosophy and start being operating instructions. Because here's what nobody tells you about the founders who make it through the brutal years. They didn't feel less fear. They just stopped needing the fear to go away before they acted. Epictetus called this the discipline of action, doing what's right and necessary regardless of the emotional weather happening inside you. You don't wait to feel confident before sending the cold email. You send it while scared. You don't wait to feel ready before laying off half your team to save the company. You do it while your hands are shaking, because waiting for the fear to leave is how businesses die slow, quiet deaths, while their founders wait for a feeling that was never coming. Lesson number 8. And this one might be the hardest to actually live by. Epictetus said that no man is free who is not master of himself. Every founder chasing external validation, the press feature, the follower count, the valuation number that makes people's eyebrows go up at dinner parties, is handing their peace of mind to something they don't control. The moment your sense of worth depends on a number that can drop overnight, you've built your identity on sand. Real security as a founder doesn't come from the outcome. It comes from knowing that whatever happens to the business, you still know how to think clearly, act with discipline, and get back up. We're 8 lessons deep, and the ones left are the ones that separate founders who survive one bad year from founders who build something that survives them. Lesson number 9, and this is the one most founders skip because it feels backwards. Epictetus taught that obstacles aren't interruptions to your path, they are the path. Not a detour, not a delay before the real work starts. The actual work. Think about every founder story you've ever admired. Nobody remembers the quarter where everything went smoothly. Nobody tells the story of the launch that worked perfectly on the first try. The story that gets told, the one that actually means something, is always the one with the near collapse in the middle of it, the almost bankrupt chapter. The co-founder fallout that nearly ended the whole thing. That's not the part of the story that happened despite the success. That's the part that built it. So when the obstacle shows up, and it will, stop treating it like a sign you're on the wrong path. Start treating it like proof you're finally on the real one. Easy paths don't produce companies worth building. They produce companies that never got tested, and untested companies collapse the first time real pressure hits them, because nobody ever found out what they were actually made of. Lesson number 10. Epictetus had a practice that sounds almost too simple, but it's brutally effective. He told his students to rehearse loss in advance, not to become pessimists, but to strip fear of its power before it ever arrives. He'd tell them, when you kiss your child goodnight, remind yourself they are mortal, not to feel sad, but so that if tomorrow ever takes them, you're not shattered by something you refused to acknowledge was possible. Translate that into building a company. Before you sign the lease, ask yourself, can I survive if this fails completely? Before you take the investment, ask, what does the worst version of this look like, and can I live through it? This isn't negativity, it's armor. Founders who've already mentally walked through the worst-case scenario are the ones who don't fall apart when a milder version of it actually happens. They already made peace with it months earlier, quietly, alone, before anyone else saw the storm coming. There's a reason the founders who seem calmest during a crisis usually aren't naturally calm people. They just already had the conversation with themselves that everyone else is having for the first time, live, in a panic, at the worst possible moment. Lesson number 11, and this is the one that ties everything together. Epictetus said that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that determines the quality of your life. Not the quality of your business, the quality of your life. That distinction matters more than it sounds like it does. You can build a company that survives every failure on this list and still lose yourself in the process, if you let every setback chip away at who you are, instead of using it to sharpen who you're becoming. The goal was never a failure-proof business. There isn't one. The goal is a founder who can absorb failure without being destroyed by it, again and again, for as many rounds as it takes. Here's what all 11 of these Stoic failure lessons for entrepreneurs come down to. In the end, Epictetus never promised the pain would stop. He never said the losses would get smaller, or the nights would get easier, or the fear would eventually leave you alone. What he promised, the only thing Stoicism has ever actually promised anyone, is that you get to decide what the failure means. Not the market, not the investor who said no, not the competitor who beat you to the launch. You. Think back to where we started. 3 months from losing everything, the team's confidence gone quiet. That thought creeping in that maybe you were never built for this. Here's the truth Epictetus would hand you if he was standing in the room right now. You were never promised safety. Nobody who built anything worth building ever was. What you were given, what you still have, right now, today, is the ability to choose your response before the next setback even lands. That's not a small thing. That's the entire game. Every founder reading this has a failure sitting somewhere in their chest right now, one they haven't fully let go of. Maybe it's recent. Maybe it's from years ago and it still shows up at Thram uninvited. Wherever it lives, here's your assignment. Stop asking why it happened to you. Start asking what it revealed, what it's teaching you to control, and what kind of founder you're going to be the next time it happens again, because it will happen again. That's not pessimism. That's just business, and Epictetus knew it better than anyone who's ever run a company. If even one of these 11 lessons hit something real in you, don't let it stop here. Tell us which one you needed most in the comments, because someone else scrolling through this right now needs to see it too. Share this with a founder you know is in the middle of a hard season, because sometimes the only thing that gets someone through a bad quarter is knowing someone else already survived one. And if you want more of this, the kind of stoicism that's actually built for building something, not just quoting something, subscribe to Stoic Founder, because we're just getting started, and the next lesson might be the one that changes how you handle everything that's still coming.